Hmm. What'd you say? No, not really. Want to get me a drink? Cider? Something. I don't know. Whatever. Hello and welcome again to It's Good Enough to Eat. Today, the lovely Miss AOC has been in the news again. Someone tried to come for her, unsuccessfully as usual, about chicken adobo. So I just got it in my head that I should make some chicken adobo. Um, Plus, things are shutting down again. Quarantine's not getting any better. So I can't be baking every week because it's not good for the waistline. I don't really need it. And I don't have a coworker to share things with right now. So trying to keep so many baked goods not in the house. So, chicken adobo, easy to Google, but I'm just going to do it step by step. Again, I have everything ready in place. And the first thing I'm going to do is put the rice on. If you have a rice cooker, great, use it. If you don't, it's pretty simple to do it on the stove. You just don't want to ignore it too long or else the bottom will burn. So I'm just going to get a pot, got my rice, and then if you have a box of chicken stock, you can use that. If you have water, use that. Um, I made some soup the other day, so I've got some extra stock lying around. So I'm just going to use that instead. Using brown rice, so I'm going to go about 3 to 1, and it'll just sit on the stove and simmer away until my chicken is done. Should be ready about the same time. This will take about 35-40 minutes. So throw it all in there, put it on the stove, and let it do its thing. Had the stove for years, and I still don't know which knobs are for which burners. Whatever. So, next, I've got my pan back here. I've got my chicken, and I'm just going to sear it off quickly before starting the rest. So, while that pan's heating up, here's my chicken. I've had it marinating in the fridge. All it is in some soy sauce, some clear vinegar, whatever type you like, whatever you happen to have laying around. I just have white vinegar, so that's what I use. You don't need a lot of salt because there's a bunch of salt in your soy. You can also use tamari if you're gluten-free, or if that matters to you. And then some pepper, garlic, and bay leaves. I don't want to eat the bay leaves, so I'm going to toss those when I get this ready to go. But otherwise, this chicken, it just needs to sit in the fridge. I put it in this morning because I was doing my responsible thing and being prepared. But if you don't have that much time, just try to give it at least half an hour, soak it in the fridge, just in a covered bowl. So, got my oil in my pan heating up. I'm gonna turn on my fan at least a little bit because knowing me, whenever I cook, I don't want to set off the smoke alarm. That's not going to be fun for anyone. So go ahead and pick out these leaves while we're waiting. You always want to make sure if you're working with raw chicken, you're going to want to wash your hands real good after every step, every time you're coming into contact. I also made sure I did not cut my chicken up on my wooden cutting board. I've got a plastic cutting board over here that can go through the dishwasher. So I'm not running the risk of contaminating any of my stuff around the kitchen. So once my oil is heated up, I'm just going to drop all my chicken in there and let it cook for a minute or so on each side just to get some brown, to get some color on it, start developing flavor. I don't want to throw my marinade away though because that's going to be in the next step. I have a big enough pan here that I can fit all of my chicken in one layer. I don't want anything covering up itself because then I will have pieces of chicken that aren't getting browned, which is no good when it comes to food. Color equals flavor, so you don't want any missed brown bits. I happened to have chicken breast laying around that I had to use up, so I'm using that. Um, this recipe does well with a fattier cut of meat, so you just might have to add some oil in later on to make up for it. But this is what I had, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. Um, this does braise, so I'm not too worried about my meat drying out because I'm cooking it in liquid, so it shouldn't be that much of a problem. Soak in hot water after every time you touch that chicken, but again, I'm not throwing out that marinade. I'm just going to give my rice a little stir, make sure the bottom is not getting burned. It's still coming to temp, so again, don't have to worry too much about it. While I'm waiting for that first side of chicken to brown, I'm going to move on to getting my other aromatics prepared. Aromatics is just a fancy way of saying things that smell good when you put them in the pan. So onion, garlic, smells good. So onion, I'm just going to cut off the end in half. Toss that in my compost bowl. Peel off the rest of the skin. If you are prone to crying when you're doing onions, a couple of tricks will help you. You can actually put them in the fridge or freezer for a few minutes, get them cold. That'll help reduce the vapors hitting your eyes. Also, a sharper knife is going to rupture fewer of the cells or something. Alton Brown said it better than I do, but a sharp knife will mean fewer tears. I'm not so bad about these onions anymore. Red onions will still get me pretty good. Shallots, those little kind of small cousins of onions, are actually way worse on my eyes than onions are. Get through this other half. You can also have a little bowl on the side if you like, which I'm thinking about now as I'm quickly running out of space. Just as I chop, I'm just going to throw this into a bowl to give myself some more space on my board here. And I'm just, for chopping these onions, I'm just running down the long way a few times. Always be careful to get your fingers out of the way. Sharp knife is also better for chopping because I am less likely to slip off the top and nick myself. So, as strange as it may seem, sharp knife, fewer cuts to your hands. Keep those cuts in the food. And then I'm going against perpendicular to how I did those first cuts. If you're worried about your knife, again, probably just sharpen it. But always be careful. And then you can also curl your fingers in where you're holding it, because then your knife is kind of guided by your knuckles and not hitting your fingertips. There's my onion, all done, in my little prep bowl. I was impatient. My oil wasn't quite hot enough, so I'm still waiting a minute on that. While it comes up, don't be impatient like me. Let your oil get nice and hot before you start trying to sear your chicken in it. Give that 1 minute more. And of course, every recipe is going to call for like 3 cloves of garlic. Whoever does 3 cloves of garlic, I don't know. Not quite like Emerald, who would say 40. Throw them all in there. But I do have, 8? And I'm actually going to throw a couple of these smaller ones in that pot with my rice. Those will soften up, and then as I just fluff it around afterwards, the garlic kind of breaks apart, gives it a few more, get a little bit extra flavor. Hi, Vinny. So now the way I peel my garlic, a lot of people will smash it under a knife. I don't like smashing the knife, um, or smashing my hand on the knife. But I find if I just put the heel of my hand on the garlic, shove it down, then the skin comes right off. Imagine that. And then I'm just going to run my knife through this, get it all prepped. Have you ever seen any like the worst cooks bake shows on Food Network? Um, One of the tips they have to break a lot of the newbies on is putting their finger on the back of their knife. They will always yell at you for that. So don't do that. Hand around the handle. I have my thumb over here as a little guide. And then again, curl your fingers in so you're not going to slice your fingertips. And just run your knife through. Feel free to just trim the end and use a garlic press if you want. You can also just really smash it, put some salt on it, and kind of grind the garlic, and that'll do a good job too. So I come back here and flip my chicken over. Get my color on the other side too. I can see that my rice has come up to a boil. I don't need it to boil the whole time, so I'm just going to turn it down a little bit so it can simmer away, and the rice will slowly soak up all that stock. There we go. I'm going to keep chopping my garlic while the second side of my chicken browns up. If you prefer white rice, you're welcome to use that. It'll do probably more traditional to use white rice. I just know brown is a little bit healthier in some way, but keep in mind that it does take more liquid and take more time than white rice. So build that into your cooking time. I know my chicken's going to take a few minutes to get ready, and then it's going to sit there and braise for another 15 or 20 minutes. So I should have enough time during all that for my rice to get done. And halfway through, I realized I was tossing the ends of my garlic into my prep bowl. Don't do that. Put your discards in your trash or your compost, and make sure that you're finished garlic. If it's in the bowl with your onions. Give myself a rinse off. One reason I like doing my hands for the first application of the chicken is then I don't have to worry about dirty chicken tongs when I go in there to start flipping and taking care of it. I don't want to be touching raw chicken with the tongs because then I have to end up washing a bunch of tongs, and it's easier to wash my hands than to wash the tongs. Again, since I'm over here, quick stir to my rice, just so we can make sure nothing's sticking. I also have a lid somewhere I can throw my rice. That's cook up quickly. That's not the right one. But as prepared as I thought I was, I'm never quite all the way there. For all this talking, it's thirsty work. Jeez. Hey, my chicken's looking good. You can see I've got it nice and brown on both sides. I'm just going to take this out. Now, it's not cooked all the way through, so don't go tasting it right now. This is just our first step. serving two purposes. It's getting us some good color tastiness on our chicken. It's getting caramelized, and it's putting some nice caramelized bits in our pan, which then when we throw our sauce in to deglaze, we're going to be able to taste all those lovely brown bits as well. What is done, I've got a couple little bits of chicken that I can taste to make sure that my seasoning's good. Because these are so small, they're going to be cooked all the way already. So that's one way to taste check while I'm doing this. Have a little small tester piece to make sure you don't need to add more salt. So I'm going to turn this down. Now I'm going to throw all my onions and garlic in here. Turn my fan up again because now they're taking some stuff out. And I can start getting more smoke. Just toss those around. And your onions like to cook off at a little bit of a lower heat. Onions and garlic kind of like it low and slow. So I'm going to give these a few minutes to get soft, start getting nice and caramelized. You can see all the bits on the pan that are already starting to come up. That's just more flavor for your dish. As I was reading about this, I was reading about chicken adobo. There's a Hispanic version and there's a Filipino version. This is the Filipino recipe, mostly because I don't have any tomatoes. Tomatoes aren't in season. But pretty much the only differences I could really find were if you're going to more Hispanic ones, then you're going to be adding chili and tomatoes. And I did add in some cayenne, and I've got some Mexican chili as well, but I'm not throwing tomatoes, so I guess you could call it a fusion. I don't know. It's going to taste good, whatever it is. But the similarities are all there. Salt, pepper, garlic, bay. Real simple. And if you go and buy your adobo seasoning, that's just fine too. But it's going to be those same ingredients: salt, pepper, garlic, bay. I tend not to buy spice mixes, just because I like being able to control how much of each flavor I have in. But they're great. I have a friend whose dad makes spice mixes, and they give us bottles of them, and they're really good. But if there was one thing in here that I didn't want in a recipe, I can't take it out. So that's why I tend to make my own. If I want to use the mix, it tastes great. It's really handy, but for a lot of things, I prefer to do my own. Moving my utensils all over the place. I bought these at Sur La Table. I swear this is one of the best things I have in my kitchen. I really like it. It's great because it has this nice rubber spatula edge for scraping bowls and things. And it's also got a little bit of a harder edge if something's a little bit stuck, or if you're like taking cookies off the tray, this can slide under nice and easy. So I have way too many of these, but I like them. Real bad habit of using about 4 or 5 for a recipe because I always threw it in the sink before before I'm actually done. Okay, so our onions are getting nice and soft. I haven't added any salt to this because I am throwing in the rest of that marinade, which is full of soy sauce, which is full of salt. I probably will add a little bit of salt to this just to develop some more of those flavors, not because I want any more saltiness, but just that extra coarse salt is going to help dry out some liquids for me. So I will add a little bit at this point. I just have a little thing of salt over here chilling with me. So now that those are ready, I'm going to take that marinade that I saved. It's full of good flavor, and if you cook it, then you're not going to have to worry about that raw chicken. And the vinegar in there anyway has already partially cooked it, so this is not, I wouldn't drink it, but it's not the worst thing. And once you cook it, it's going to be plenty good, nice and delicious. So I throw that in there. And I've also got some water because I do need to finish cooking my chicken and I'm braising it. So that just means cooking it in liquid, kind of a half, like giving it a nice little bath. I'm not submerging it, I'm not boiling it, um, but I do need some liquid in there to carry me through. I'm gonna add a little brown sugar, very traditional. Have a little sugar in there. If you're not doing sugar, if you don't like the sweet, you can leave it out. I scratched my hands, so I'm going to go wash my hands again, but I'm going to keep saying this. Do, if you can't have sugar for some reason, you can always use an alternative. Honey will be fine. You can use agave or some other syrup that you like the flavor of, some sort of sugar alternative. But yeah, just be mindful of what your preferences are, because any recipe, if you don't like the ingredients, you're not going to like the final product. And if you can't eat the ingredients, you can't eat the final product, probably. Discounting the rawness factors. But I'm going to turn this back up because I want to get this up.
What's your time?
My time
Fine.
for finishing this. Hi, Mark wants to know how long he has to be quiet for.
No, it's my go to the store.
Oh, you have to go to the store.
Yeah.
Oh, Mark has a board game he needs to pick up. Yeah. So, the other thing we do all the time is play lots of board games after work because there's not a whole lot else to do these days. So we've got a bunch of campaign style games where we play them over and over. There's 2 of us. I realized I talked about this chicken seasoning, or this Mexican chili seasoning. I haven't actually put any in yet. So I'm going to just add it to taste. I'm just going to throw in, I don't know, the corner of it. Just try to remember about how much you did, because then if you like the amount, you can do the same. If you want less, you can do less. If you want more, you can do more. So hey, Teo. Teo wants pork. I'm doing traditional. I'm sorry. This is the traditional recipe that I found, so I'm doing it. I am using pork stock for my rice. Teo, you're welcome, I suppose. It just wants to boil away. It's on a small burner. I did cut my chicken through to make sure it was done because I'm not a silly person. I'm not going to just trust it that it's not going to be raw. I'm going to say right now, I'm not getting much pepper flavor, so I'm going to have pepper, which was in the original. Also because I just like my pepper shaker. This is me checking my recipe because I'm going to do that a million times anytime I'm cooking something new. No, I'm just kidding. You can have this on in the background, while you're playing whatever game. I mean, hell, this is my highest viewed video already with all 2 of you. Okay, it's on my 3rd stream. I finally set a schedule. I'm trying to stick to Thursdays 5-ish. It's good enough, right? Another thing about testers is cook snacks. Always need snacks while you're cooking. And these are a pretty healthy one. I mean, it's just a piece of chicken. Could be snacking on something else, chips and various things, but keep it healthy. Could also give a piece of chicken to my Hartridge critic, who's getting dressed to go to the store. See what he thinks about it. He's probably going to tell me the piece of chicken's too tough, Because of course it's too tough. I was cooking it like this big piece of chicken, this little tiny toaster piece.
You don't need to move the most.
Here. He says it's good. That's a good start. Okay, now this has come up to a boil. I'm going to put my chicken back in. If you were using skin side up, because you want that skin to stay crispy. I don't have any skin on this because I didn't have full skin chicken. I'm just going to throw this in. Theoretically, what would have been the skin side up? Because you developed a nice crust on your skin, you don't want to lose that by throwing it in the liquid to sit there and boil away. And putting it in skin side up, with the skin sticking out of the liquid, kind of boiling or braising, helps you keep that skin. And these juices that seeped out of it, delicious chicken flavor, I'm just going to throw that into. Great thing about cooking as opposed to baking, I don't have to worry about a lot of my proportions. Sneaking around because I didn't move my trash can. Like, for most things that you cook, all your proportions are up to the person making it, whatever you like.
I love you. Be right back.
Love you too. Be safe. Wear a mask.
I'm just walking to the door.
This will also cook a little faster because it isn't uh, bone-in, skin-on, so it's not going to take as long to cook. It's also breast. And again, I'm not worried about it drying out so much because it is braising. It's sitting in liquid, so it's not like it's baking. Maybe bake things too long, all the moisture just evaporates out of it. Not worried about that too much. That can pretty much sit there, and if I turn it down, it will just stay warm for a long time. And I won't have to worry too much about it. I can go away and play some video games. I can go finish my round of Hades. Or I can do some washing up. So I don't have to worry about doing it later. Whatever. Again, check your rice, make sure you're not sticking to the bottom of the pan, make sure you're not burning anything. Now I got nothing to do until it cooks. What are they doing? Cooking shows. You have to sit there and wait for it. Like I know they have all these cuts and things, but I really admire Rachel Ray. And she was able to have a show for however many years, and she cooked everything live within a 30-minute time limit. So, final thoughts, I suppose, before I end this. Oh, one thing I didn't mention earlier about, as I gave a throw, I shout out to Caleb's father. The other thing about doing your own spice mixes is if you have someone who's sensitive to certain ingredients, that's also how you can make sure to be making delicious and safe food for them. My mom is low sodium, so I use low sodium soy sauce, so I'm not overloading there. I didn't put much extra salt in. I would have not thrown that salt in. If I were cooking for her, I would have just thrown some salt extra at the end for me. Which isn't great. It's better if it cooks in, but still, I mean, you're always cooking for the person eating. They're the audience, and you're making it good for them. So always cater to your audience. And if you are, I'm not too worried about this chicken. It's just gonna sit on there until it's ready. But if you are concerned about your chicken, you can always temp it. If you have a stick thermometer, throw it in there and make sure you've reached 165. That's your safe chicken eating temperature. If you don't have a thermometer, just cut it open. If it's not pink inside, you're good to go. I'm not a fancy restaurant, so I don't have to have a nice, lovely presentation to throw on my customer's plate. You do with your eyes, but I would just play it safe and slice through your chicken before serving it, because then you're guaranteed to know. Brain torn out. Hi. Lots of garlic billy. Yeah, that's everything but the cardamom is in there. Um, I do like that pepper. I like it a lot spicy, but again, I was talking about my mom who's low sodium. She also is sensitive to pepper, so if I were cooking for her, I would leave that out. This recipe has whole peppercorns in it. I just went for the ground because it's a lot of effort to strain out or pick around the peppercorns. But I'll try that next time with the cardamom. This is the first time making this, so I'm trying to stick pretty close to what the recipe is. Um, I try to do that the first time I make anything. I stick really close to the recipe, and then I can figure out what worked, what didn't work, and make changes from there. But yeah, I'll absolutely try cardamom. I do have cardamom. I love cardamom. I usually put it in sweet things, like making cinnamon rolls, but with cardamom instead of cinnamon. They do that a lot in a little town in Oregon. Um, is it Bend? I think it's Bend, Oregon, where they have a little bakery, and it's the name of a bird, and I can't quite remember it right now. But they call them ocean rolls, and it's basically a cinnamon roll, but with cardamom instead, and those are delicious. Mm, goulash. I don't think I've ever made goulash. I don't know. I have some goulash is Hungarian, right? Um, I do have an eggplant and some lamb that I need to use up, so I might make some moussaka in a couple of days. That's a little bit more of an involved process. It's lots of steps in baking and various things. Yeah. Let me check. I'm smelling things. Your nose is very useful in the kitchen. I am smelling lovely flavors over here with my rice. I still have plenty of liquid in here, so I'm not burning. But I'm just going to keep simmering down that chicken. I'm going to check it in a couple minutes, and if it's done, I'm going to pull that again, and then just let my sauce continue to cook down. And then once that sauce is a lot of the moisture is evaporated, it gets nice and thick. That just turns into a glaze, and I'll just toss the chicken in there one more time to coat it in the glaze, and dinner will be ready. Um, I had a bunch of vegetables earlier for lunch, so I'm not going to worry about making a side right now, also because I'm lazy. Uh, but yeah, throw your favorite vegetable on the side, corn on the cob, zucchini. I think would go pretty well with this. Um, whatever you like. Okay. So thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm gonna finish this up. I'll post some pictures on the gram, and I will share this video to YouTube with the recipe. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and it'll be good enough to eat. I guarantee. No feeling bad. I'm still getting on a schedule. It's not quite posted yet, but I'm trying to shoot for 5-ish from on Thursdays for now. See you guys.